Hi, I'm Steve Moore, and today on Midwest Outdoors, I'm going to talk about how you can successfully fish shallow water from a kayak. And the key tool I use is the Deeper Sonar. I've got their new product today, the Deeper Chirp, and the advantage of it over the older model is you have 3 beam widths, so you get exceptionally high resolution on the narrow beam, and it's got great battery life. It'll last all day. So why do I need a sonar where I fish? Well, let me show you what my challenge is. Check this out. Where I fish, you have unremarkable shorelines. There's nothing there to indicate where a fish would be. And then it gets worse as you go out into the open water. That's where I've got to find the holes and the channels that'll hold the fish. And ideally, I can find a hole or a channel right next to one of these shorelines, and that's where I'll be most successful. Let me explain how the Deeper helps me do that. As you can imagine, I'm not going to find any fish underneath my kayak when I'm paddling or pedaling in 1 or 2 feet of water. But I do need the sonar to key me on where the channels are, because what I'll do is I'll perch on the edge of a channel and fish the channel, or I'll find a hole and I'll fish that hole. And that's where the Deeper is a real advantage, because you can use it both in boat mode, where it's sitting off the side of your kayak sending a continuous signal, or you can attach it to your rod, fling it out there, and do a recon as you pull it back. That way, once I'm on the channel or the hole, I'm using this in deep water mode. Let me show you what the screen looks like as I search for one of these channels. Here's the display showing the detailed mode. You've got plenty of options when you're working in deep water, but Deeper has already optimized it for shallow by putting it into shallow mode for me. As the display scrolls, you can see that I've got exceptional detail even though the water is 1 foot or 2 feet. And what I'm looking for is exactly what you see right here, where I've got an edge of a channel and I'll move over, use the Deeper to position exactly on this edge, and now I'll be able to fish this deep drop-off, because that's where the fish are in these wide open bays. As you can imagine, that's a pretty tough environment out there. You could paddle or pedal right over a channel or a deep hole without even seeing it. That's why you've got to be able to look at your display all the time. Now, you could try and keep it in your hands, but that's pretty awkward if you're trying to paddle. And if you're trying to pedal and you got your hands on your rudder controls, again, you're not going to be able to look at the display. Now, you could get the mount for this that goes on a rod, and that's great if you're fishing from the shore, but on a kayak, it puts the display just a little bit too far away and at an awkward angle to be viewable. So what I do is I bought one of these cheap holders and attach it to a utility track in back of my seat, and now this is adjustable, so I can adjust it for the sun and I can see this display. Now wait a minute, you say, do you really want to put an expensive smartphone right here where it might get knocked off and fall in the water? Well, no, you don't want to do that. Instead, go to eBay, buy a used smartphone, or go get a contract phone. You can get them for 30 bucks or so if you get a deal, and skip the activation step when you turn it on. The Wi-Fi on those things, as well as 911, will work just fine. Then use that in the mount, connect that to the Deeper, and you're in business. If you really want to have internet connection on that same phone, set up your real phone as a hotspot, and it can translate the internet connection from it over to your cheap phone. That way your expensive phone is always protected. Now when you mount the Deeper, the best way to do it is on this mount right here, because it's got this flexible arm that will keep the Deeper floating on top of the water. The Wi-Fi signal gets cut off if water goes over the top of the Deeper, and that's why you can't just attach the Deeper to a rod and pull it back behind your kayak, because it's going to dip down under the water. The range on this thing is spectacular. It'll get you 330 feet or so, so when you're in shore mode, you can really give it a good fling. Well, let's go out and see if we can catch some fish. All right, got a fish on here. Sitting here at the edge of the channel. Deeper put me onto him. Let's see if I can get him in. Okay, let's check him out. That's a sweet fish. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's a redfish. And they're tough fighters, as you just discovered. So that's how I use the Deeper on the kayak to catch these nice fish in shallow water. Remember, it's not about the fish underneath you, it's about the structure around you. And the structure is what holds fish, and the Deeper Chirp is great for finding that, sitting on it, and then being able to catch some good fish.